Hello everyone, welcome to Hearthstone Meta. I'm Ecor100 with my friend Benga Dragon. How's it going, Benga?
Hey, thanks to everybody last week. I'm off for the 420 minute, but I don't actually ever do 420, but just wanted to say I'm feeling better. Anybody that noticed. So it was bad.
Yeah, you didn't look 100% last week. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know if you looked 50%. But anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about was the new keyword Tradeable and just the new set in general. First of all, I just want to say that I'm actually really excited for this new set that's going to come out on August 3rd. They did end up talking about it.
You were?
And I'm pretty sure I predicted August 5th.
You were
I was
right.
only off by 2 days.
You were right.
Gonna just go out and say that I was pretty good with my estimate. Yeah, I remember looking at it, I was like, wow, I was only 2 days off. That's pretty close. But, yeah, I'm actually really excited for this. I think that it's going to, based on the cards that they've released, like individual cards, it looks like it's going to be more control-focused, or at least less aggro-focused. Because there's some control cards, there are cards, they're coming out with new rush cards, coming out with new AoE for mage, coming out with a good armor card for warrior, good weapon removal for neutral, and just a ton of stuff in general. But the thing I want to focus on is the tradable keyword, as I said, because I think that's one of the biggest things that will help slow down the meta. And I want to explain why. So just before I start, I want to hear what you think about tradable. What are your thoughts on this keyword?
Well, 1 mana, draw, right? There's many classes that don't have the ability to draw, now get draw, which is kind of cool. I think that Shaman even got even more powerful here. They're gonna need they always need a draw. Even a class like Hunter was something that had draw. So that's the first thing I thought is it's a 1 mana draw card. I think that tradable is really cool in the interest that it will make for specific deck building. For example, like the card that you want to talk about. So maybe I'll just save it for that. But Rust Rot Viper is an interesting card for certain reasons. So I think that the tradable keyword is very good. It will create some different decks. The only thing is you're going to see a lot of the tradable cards over and over and over if that's the case. But it seems like it's a decent deal.
Yeah, at first when I read it, I thought that it was like cost 1 less, and you can draw another card, but it's literally just cost 1. I misread that. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be good. I don't want to spend 2 mana for the Restaurant Viper to be traded to draw a card, but it's literally just, all of them cost 1 mana, and you can put them back in your deck, so that ended up being a nice little surprise. But the main thing I want to talk about is just the fact that, like you said, it gives classes, or just decks in general, draw, along with the flexibility of running these cards. So the card I wanted to talk about was Rust Rot Viper, specifically because I think it's a very well-designed card. I think it's very powerful, but isn't broken either. Like, it's still a 3-mana 3/4 with an ability to destroy an opponent's weapon and tradable. Like, that doesn't jump out and be like, this is game-breaking. But if you actually think about it, it is a tech card that you're going to only use against certain matchups, right? Weapon-based matchups, like Doomhammer Shaman, or let's say Warrior has some good weapons. Hunter, you might want to kill the rifle or a new weapon. Point is, weapon-based matchups. And you have the ability now to run the Rust Rot Viper, and right now you have Acidic Swamp Ooze. And Acidic Swamp Ooze is fine to run, but a lot of people don't run it because if you draw it, late game, or you draw it and you're not against a weapon matchup, it feels kind of bad. But Rust Rot Viper, it doesn't, because it's literally a tech card that there is almost no downside to drawing into a bad matchup for it, because you can just replace it for 1 mana.
Yes.
Which is a huge deal. Like, I don't know if you actually think about this, but this will make teching cards into your deck, this card specifically, and one other for Warrior that says gain 8 armor, way better. Because into a control matchup, the armor's not going to be that good, but you draw 1 extra card and you get some like sort of win condition that's going to be way better. And the same thing with the Viper. You can run it as a tech card, but you have none of the downside of it being a tech card. Like, it'll be bad into some matchups. It won't be bad ever unless you go to like the very end. Let's say you go way into fatigue, right? You go down to your last couple of cards. Then you might end up drawing it again and you can't really replace it. But it's still a 3-mana 3/4, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's a good stat line.
Yeah.
So overall, I think this card is going to be really good, but it's still also going to be a tech card. It's going to be like a role player kind of card. Like, it's not going to be the star. Nobody's going to really talk about it, but I think that it has the potential to be like a 4-star caliber card in like control decks or something.
Right. Well, if you look at the card also, it is destroy your opponent's weapon. That's what it does. But then there are going to be a lot more weapon matchups in it, because
that's true. They're coming out with a lot of weapons.
Yeah, every class is getting a weapon, right? So whether or not the thing is that, for example, this is where I thought about this card is pretty interesting, right? Let's say that your opponent is playing like the Warlock Rune Mithril Rod, which is a 0/2. After you draw 4 cards, reduce the cost in your hand by 1, lose 1 durability, right? And it's kind of a thing. Let's say that you actually have Rushrod Viper in your hand on turn 3, and your opponent doesn't have Rune Mithril Rod on turn 3, right? They're both 3 mana. They haven't played it. So Rushrod, to play it there would be probably pretty bad, right? It would be not really a great idea to play that card, just play it out for tempo, considering that maybe, just maybe, they're going to play this, their weapon or what it is, right? You get the chance to put this back in your deck and then play something that can help you at that moment or whatever it may be. You follow what I'm saying? It's like you can even hold the card and draw or whatever. I'm just saying it just opens up opportunities, these decisions that I had done a video about this already, like just a short video. But what it is, it almost feels like you get to interact with your own deck a little more. It kind of, you get to kind of mess with the tempo, kind of helps you it adds some different decisions. There's some different questions that are you have to ask yourself, which I think are great for the game. That I absolutely think is great.
Yeah, I was going to build on that actually.
Let's talk about it. Decisions, right?
One of my favorite things is actually Druid and the ability to have choose one abilities. Like, having the flexibility means that the card's power level is like a little bit weaker. Like Nourish being a 6 mana gain 2 mana crystals, or it's actually pretty strong. Or draw 3 cards. The draw 3 cards is like a little weak for its mana cost, but it's 6 mana because it has that flexibility to do 2 different things. And there are a couple of other things like that as well. And I just like the ability to choose, because it just adds a little bit more depth to the game, because the game is pretty simple when you break it down. So having extra decisions to make for every single class is kind of big. And another thing you could do that I just thought about right now is mind games. You could bluff your opponent by, let's say you have 2 tradable cards in your hand. Let's say you have the Rushrot Viper and something else. Let's say you trade away not the Rushrot Viper, but the opponent's like, oh, he just traded away a card. He must not think I have a weapon, so he plays the weapon. But boom, I actually traded away a different card, and I kept the Rushrot Viper in my hand, and I just baited it out. And now I get to destroy your weapon and get tons of value. Like, I'm not sure how accurate this is, or how much people are actually going to do that. But I could see a little bit of bluff potential with these tradable cards as well, where you just play mind games with the opponent and use the ability in like not an awkward way, but a unique way that people probably won't expect, especially at the beginning. Well, I'm excited for that, and just the ability to choose cards. I think that or choose abilities. Both of those things, I think, add depth to the game, which I think will help the game a lot. And it's why I think the game is gonna shift a little bit more towards a slower meta, because since there are more decisions to make, that will like buff up control decks just in general, because they're usually better when they have more choices to make.
I'm on the school of I'm going to believe that when I see it, because I had been on that aggro is going to be a little less effective train back in the last expansion. I was like towing that line. I'm like, it's going to be less aggro. We're going to have more mid-range. We're going to have a little bit more control, more mid-range, less aggro. I was I'm very cautious this time. Okay.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic about this.
How does that sound? That sounds good. I'm cautiously optimistic with a few things that aggro will be toned down. It doesn't need to disappear. It just needs to tone it down a little bit. And the problem is I almost feel like you can't tone aggro down by adding new cards. Aggro is aggro. It's just super aggro. Maybe it can, you can't tone down the aggro, in other words, but you can, I guess you can defend against the aggro a little more, but that's not what this is about. This is about tradable. I think that the tradable deal, like for example, Warrior, right? They have that card called Heavy Plate, which is tradable, gain 8 armor. That's an interesting thing. Check this out. Here's something interesting is you play the Venomous Scorpion on turn 3. Yep. And one of your choices is Heavy Plate, right?
Yeah.
You can then select that, get a cool card that you could actually draw a card with next turn for 1 mana. And it goes into your deck that it can actually be used for a late game. So yeah,
that's true. I didn't think about that either. You could discover it and put it into your deck and just draw, and it basically becomes draw a card in case like you need it for later. Interesting.
Yeah, right? It's like what's not so bad, right? This card kind of never, it sort of never really, like for example, that card really never gets bad in Warrior if you discovered it, because it's a 1 mana draw. Yep. And so it's kind of like cool like that. There's just interesting things. That's a kind of just thought of that now too, is like, what happens if you just like, why would you ever run that card? Like would you really throw Heavy Plate into your deck? No,
I mean,
not
for
really.
Control Warrior, I might.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Like, depends on how good aggro. Like, if there's a ton of Face Hunters still and Shamans, 8 armor could be good. But if it's more mid-range and Control, no. But I'd still discover it for the card draw, maybe.
Play Scorpion on turn 3, discover Heavy Plate, draw a card. So it might be not like a card that you actually run in your deck. It'll be a card that you just are happy to discover. So it's just cool. Tradable is cool. Hopefully the software doesn't crash every day on it. And when they do it with all the bugs when they launch next expansion, but we'll see.
But yeah, basically Tradeable is one of my favorite mechanics, maybe ever, just because it gives those extra choices. But another mechanic that's coming out is the quest line, which I'm also very excited to talk about on your segment. That is, in my opinion, great for a couple of different reasons. So let's just jump on over there and get into it.